Many people write New Year's resolutions, and if you're watching this video, one of your New Year's resolutions might be to become a better photographer. This is my first video of the new year, so Happy New Year! Over this video, I will be going over my top 5, maybe 6 tips on how to become a better photographer. And as someone who has been shooting many different types of subjects and has been shooting for quite a long while, I think I've had my fair shares of ups and downs, and I think some of my points are fairly valid on how to become a better photographer. So on to point number 1. My first tip would be to pick a gear system and to learn it. Yes, you can chop and change if you really don't like it, but I would recommend picking a gear system, sticking with it, and you'll be very surprised actually how great some of the images you take will be. In a world full of content and quick Instagram reels, quick TikToks, everybody is trying to say to you, change your gear, try this. Oh, this new Sony's come out. You don't necessarily need it. Yes, it would be great to have it, but you don't necessarily need it. I have been shooting on the Canon systems for a very long time. Have I used Nikon whilst I was at uni to give it a go? Yeah. Have I been swayed a little bit? Yeah. Did I want to try Sony because of all the bells and whistles and this big hype? Of course I did. But I knew the Canon system, and that changing period where you've got to learn where the buttons are, you've got to learn where all the dials are, you've got to learn even the autofocusing system all over again. It takes a lot of time, and you'll be surprised actually if you've been using a camera gear system for a little while, actually how well you know it. It should be second nature if you're using gear quite regularly. For me, it took me a long time to learn the Canon system, and even though I've been shooting it with it for like maybe even close to 10 years, which is crazy to say, I've only really just learned where the buttons are because I've chopped and changed gear. I wanted to try the best thing. I want to try, oh my god, this is new camera system, or this new button layout has come out and this is the best way to do X, Y and Z. It's all about how do you work, what's going to make your work great, and how are you going to move forward in a way that's efficient for you. If you're a returning viewer, you'll know I'm quite big on shooting film right now, and it is taking me quite a long time to adjust to these buttons and dials, but it will be worth it, and I can see the difference already. I'm getting better shots because I know where the buttons are, I know exactly what sort of focal lengths, as I have my Minolta 7000, which has my 50mm prime lens on it, which I absolutely love. I love the nifty 50s. And then in the back, you can't quite see it, but I have my Fujicura GM670, which has an 85mm. I think it's an 85, it might be 100mm, I can't quite remember. See, need to know my gear more. And I love the camera, but this is where I miss quite a lot of the shots because I don't quite know the focal length. It's the only lens I have. I use it quite a lot, but for whatever reason, it's not quite ingrained yet. But that's not an issue, it will take time, and knowing my gear will make my images better. I try and find a way to minimize your gear set. I use the 24-105, which is what I'm recording on right now, and a 50mm prime lens for my Canon digital work. Would I like more lenses? Yes, but does this cover pretty much all bases? Yeah, I know exactly really what sort of shots I'm going to get by the time I've taken the shot. Even sometimes I can look at a lovely scene and I know I need a 50mm for that. Only because I've spent the time to learn the focal lengths. I know maybe what aperture I'm going to use, even any slight warping on each of the lenses. You get this almost instinct of where do I need to be. And yes, this does take a lot of time, but it can be done if you put the work in for it. And that is my first tip on how to become a better photographer in this new year. In my final year of uni, I made a promise to myself, and as part of a unit actually, that I was going to become my own brand, whether that was video making, photograph making, but I wanted it to be distinct, as that is, whether it depends on how you know me, is Jake's work or Grenney Creates work. And developing your own style is absolutely brilliant. My Instagram feed is full of photographers, some small, some big, some that I think quite clearly deserve more recognition than they deserve. But that doesn't matter, they have their own style. And I personally think if you have your own style, it's only a matter of time really until people start to really pick up on your work and notice that as, oh, that is so-and-so's work, oh, that is Tom's work or Joe's work or Cody's work. It can be anybody, but they know, oh, I know their work, I know what they're getting. And if they're posting consistently, oh, I'm going to see so-and-so's work, oh, I'm going to see Grenney Creates work on a Sunday. That's a bit of a shameless plug, but I'm going to leave it in. But yeah, it's worth doing. Create your own style, figure out what you like to photograph. If you don't know what you like to photograph, even better, because you can play and photograph anything and you will gravitate towards something without necessarily realizing. I thought I was going to be a sports photographer. I did a lot of work for the Plymouth wheelchair basketball team. I photographed some hockey events, did some like university basketball teams as well. And did I enjoy it? Yep. Was it my own? Could I put my own style into it? Absolutely not, because I was there to photograph an event. Yes, if I did it more, I'd be able to have some trust from the people that are employing me, or I'm trying to get in their good books, just generally doing like a free shoot, but I needed that foot in the door first. If you have your own style, people can employ you for that. They know the stylistic approach you're going to bring. They know maybe even if you shoot film, what your preferences to films are and what colours they're going to get. And this is almost like another layer to your professionalism and your marketability, because people know what they're going to get. As I said before, they know exactly whose work it belongs to, and maybe they might want to see more of it. When I said about my Instagram is full of photographers, I look at the photography work that they are producing, and I don't just sit there and scroll and go, oh, that's lovely. Some days I do, some days I don't, depends on how I'm feeling. But majority of the time, I look at their work and go, ooh, what is it that I have seen in this photo collage, or even just one singular image, and gone, what is it that I really like about that? And I'm not saying to carbon copy people's work by any means. Please only do that as like a creative outlet and maybe as a starting point, because that is brilliant to do, but we want to see your work. I take a lot of inspiration from Jake Kinyears, Nicholas J.R. White, and even looking at the older works of William Eggleston. I might choose to use the way that they've composed an image, or maybe what angle they've used, but the subject matter might be different, the film stock might be different, and either way, unless you're there to exactly copy what they're going to do, you're going to put your own stylistic approach on it anyway, so it doesn't quite matter so much. But look at work, see what you like about the work, and how you can add your own little stylistic approach. Keep your photo making relatively consistent. For point number 3, I'd argue this is one of the most important parts, hence why I've put it in the middle. The making process takes a long time to get relatively good at something, and that doesn't matter photography, art, learning a handstand. It takes a while to learn how to do something very, very well. And if you are loosely consistent with something, you're going to get better over time. When I finished my uni degree, I found myself in a little bit of a creative rut where I wasn't quite sure I wanted to photograph. I knew I was photographing things of like art of noticing, slice of life, but I wasn't having that necessarily the excitement to make the work, even though I know I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I made a bit of a promise to myself that I was going to try and make work that I could post on my Instagram every Sunday, and that's at Grenney Crates if you would like to see the work that I make. And this is where the loose consistency comes in. I made my promise to myself that I was going to post every week on a Sunday, and I did for about 12 weeks, I think. And then I hit a bit of a, not necessarily a burnout, but I was looking at my images and I wasn't quite getting something from it, and I wasn't really wanting to share that. Kind of run out of stuff from recent and past work that didn't really work together anymore. So I wanted to take a break, and that's fine. And when I say take a break, I took a break for a week. It can be however long you need, and I now post every week where I feel like I have the work to do so. But I started to build a following from that, and I started to get a bit more appreciation on my posts, and that's not what it all comes down to, because my work got better. It's not necessarily the fact that Instagram is seeing that, oh, this person's posting every week. For me, I wholeheartedly believe that I got a little bit more of a following and a little bit more attention just because I got better at my work. People were a little bit more attracted to it. I'd share things on my stories, and then I've had a few more people, which I'm very, very grateful for, start to share my work around because they really appreciate what I'm doing. Whereas before, even those people who are maybe relatively new, they're only sharing the more recent works because the work has got a little bit better. Progression is key in this situation, in this profession, because you're not going to be great straight away. I've been photographing for, well, I undertook photography at year 9 for GCSE, and I was photographing before that, and I am now a uni graduate. So I've been photographing for a very, very long time, and my work has got better and better and better because I've been chipping away, and you're only going to see that growth if you give it time to grow. And then from the consistency, you need to keep reviewing what you're making. At uni, we had, in our final year, every other Monday, I think it was, I can't quite remember, it's a little while ago now, we used to print all our most recent works out and some of the old stuff to see if it worked together, place it on the table in front of everybody, and we'd walk around the room and people would explain why they photographed it and why it fits their work, and if they wanted some tips, if they think their work is good or they think their work is bad, and then they would get the group's opinion. And I think it's really good to do that, because you get this understanding of, okay, how are other people seeing my work? Because for a lot of photographers, even though you're enjoying your work, you want a little bit of gratification from other people, which is great. If you have nobody to review your work with, I hope that you're more than capable to look at your work sometimes and go, oh, that doesn't really hit the spot. And that's perfectly fine, and you need to kind of evaluate why it's not hitting the spot. If you're looking at your work and going, oh, don't like that, then why don't you like that? Maybe write some notes on it, maybe look at some of the works that you did really enjoy that you made and go, what's the difference between the two and how can I improve? Because you've got to make work that you don't like. I've made so many works on film recently that I've got to roll back and say out of 36 shots, I only like 10. But why do I like those 10 shots? And I'm going to share those on Instagram, and yes, that means now I've got to wait another week to get more to go on my Instagram the following week. But that's fine. You've got to be quite critical, but please don't be horrible to yourself. Don't say you're a bad photographer. Just sometimes things don't work out, and that's okay. And if you keep reviewing it, you will get better in time, especially if you apply it with consistency. And arguably the most important point, even though I said consistency was the most important point, is to have fun. Making photography and making photos in general should be enjoyable. It's a very big privilege to be able to even own a camera and to be able to go out into the world that you are around and surrounded with, to be able to go and document it or work for a brand. You should be having great fun with what you make, and I really hope that you do. And if you're not having fun with it, switch it up. Change what you're photographing, maybe change where you're going to photograph. I know I did said it before, if you've stuck with a camera system for so long and you really don't like it, change it. As I said, I was photographing on Canon all the time, and I'll shoot film. I enjoy it more, and it doesn't matter. I'm having fun. The other points before were all about getting better, and this one will definitely make you better, because if you're enjoying your work, you want to produce more of it, and all the other bits will then fall into place. Because if you're not enjoying what you're making, you're not going to be critical of it, you're not going to be consistent with it. So have fun with it and really enjoy the photography process. And finally, I have just seen my little LCD screen and seen that the lighting's gone a little bit dark. So hopefully it's held up throughout. And if you have enjoyed the video and enjoyed any of the tips given, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe. If you want to see the images that I make, follow me on Instagram at Grenney Creates. I try and post every Sunday. It's getting to every other Sunday at the moment, just whilst it's January. The weather's a little bit miserable, but there's a video coming on that actually, so stick around. If you want to grade any of your footage like I do, use my code Grenney, all in caps, at the Dehancer website to save 10%. And if you've made it this far, thank you for watching and have a lovely new year.